this is my dashboard. I built this dashboard in Excel in order to A, combine different data sources, and B, to have a up-to-date look on my development when it comes to displaying my development with the help of data. What you see basically in this dashboard is you do see the filters which are available. We will talk about them later. Then you see different color coding. So we have a blue color coding, a yellow color coding, as well as a pink color coding. The blue color coding is about mood. The yellow color coding is about the heart rate variability, and the pink color coding helps in understanding nutrition, sport behavior, and activity levels. So I try to color code different areas which we discussed before in our previous video. So different KPIs which I want to improve are color coded so that I will be able to analyze each area step by step. Well, what do we see in a dashboard? In general, we do see a filter. The filter is based on the different columns of data which are available. So A, we have the filter for date. B, we have the filter for weekday. So Monday, Tuesday, we have filters for cities. So for example, in my case, we have Gdynia in Poland, or Berlin in Germany, etc. We have a year, we have months, and we have calendar weeks if you want to zoom in into different time frames. Then what we see again is color-coded different KPIs. So for example, in the blue case, we have my mood. So I collected my mood every day for months on a scale of 1 to 10, and then try to analyze it. And how did I build my dashboard? Well, I started at the highest level possible. So this means that, for example, when talking about my mood, I have an average mood of 7.01, as well as a min value of 4, as well as a max value of 9, which is again aggregated to a level as high as possible. Then I have average mood per city. So I aggregate the mood based and filter it based on city. Then I have average mood based on weekdays. In this case, they are written in German, but this is changeable. And then I have a deeper level of mood over time, so to understand trends, for example. So I start at the highest level, so to have a reference point, to have a min-max value. Then I can analyze moods per city and moods per weekdays to understand whether for example, a city has impact on my mood, and then I see how it develops over time. And if, for example, I want to see how my mood develops over time in Berlin, I can filter the dashboard on Berlin here. We will take a look at this later. And what I basically like very much is a general interpretation. So what I built is a kind of descriptive interpretation, or description of what you see in the data. So you see my average mood is 7.0.1. The city with the lowest score in mood is Świnoujście. You see it here, it's Świnoujście. And the city with the highest score is Side, and you see it's Side with the highest score. So what is going on in the dashboard is that it's describing the most important information, so that I can read it out and always have like a quick win based on the data. And it's the same generally with the other areas. So the heart rate variability, I have the heart rate variability as well as the heart rate, averages, min, max values per city, per weekday, as well as developments and a descriptive analysis. And the same with the calories and nutritions and sport behaviors, etc. So what are my average calories, what is my eating behavior, what is my share when it comes to fat, protein, and carbs, how does the share look like, how many steps do I make, what is my average weight in the given time frame, what is the min, what is the max value, as well as how did my weight develop in order compared to my calories or compared to my fat consumption. How does it in general develop, as well as how is my eating behavior in different cities or in different on different weekdays, as well as the interpretation of it. So what we have is a automatic dashboard. It is possible to automate this dashboard. What do I mean? Well, what I can do is to, if you provide me your data, or if we get your data, or if we want your data analyzed, for example, at your laptop. So if you don't want to grant me access, I can grant you access to the dashboard. We will then try to clean up your data and then import into a dashboard. The dashboard will be yours, of course, and then the dashboard will automatically adapt to your data. So there will not be, for example, Chersk and Zide in Gdynia and Iserlohn and Berlin, but the cities which you were in, as well as the data will display your behavior, so you will be able to analyze what happened for you. Well, this is basically how the dashboard is built, and if we want to filter, we can put in values here and click here. Well, we will do it afterwards as soon as I will get into my my own developments. What are the advantages of this kind of dashboard which I built? Well, it's again easy to re-import additional data. So if I am older for 2 months, I'm able to import the data and add the data, and the dashboard will adapt to the data. I'm able to add new data. So for example, if I start tracking my Facebook usage behavior, I can just add a new color coding, for example, green, and then have digital usage behavior as another information source. Easy segmentation. So if I want to segment, I can easily add new segments, as well as the availability for another person. So what I can do is I can provide you access to this dashboard if we get into working together, and then you can import your data into the dashboard and analyze your data in a way that I'm analyzing my data right now. Well, and the fun thing is that you don't need to understand data in order to understand your development, because what is provided is a visual representation of data points as well as a description of data points. So, well, let's get into a basic analysis of what is happening within my life based on the data. Let's take a look at the blue color coding, at my mood over time. What happened? Well, mood over time, mood per city, mood per weekday. Those are my KPIs I try to use in order to understand when my mood is high, when my mood is low. What I did is I used iMood Journal in order to track my mood on a scale of I think 0 to 10, but I did not type in 0 at any point. So maybe it was 0 to 10, maybe it was 1 to 10. What we see is that my average is 7.01. I do have an average of a min value of 4 and a max value of 9, so I do not tend to get into negative extremes, which is kind of interesting, but I was expecting it, which means that for me, I tend to think positive. I tend to have a cognitive perception which is positive. I tend to think in chances. So for me, my basic understanding and perception of life is pretty positive. And this is displayed by this area. As everybody in life, I experience bad situation and do have sometimes bad luck, but I just do not tend to get into negative extremes. Then let's take a look at my mood over time. What we see here, I started collecting it. Let's zoom in. I started collecting it, I think, at some point in March and stopped at some point in July. And what we see is that my mood is pretty stable. There is no bigger trend visible, no tendency where it's not increasing, it's not rising, it's just, well, somewhere around 6, 7, we see that my average is 7. So it's pretty stable, which is kind of good for me, because I do not tend to get into tendencies over time, but stay stable. Though what we see is that I do have at some points high values, min-max values. So how do I interpret myself or my development here is that When I do something, basically what I do is I put my whole life, my whole emotion in it. So, and as well as my health at the end. So if something's good going on, I'm trying to be the most passionate one about what I'm doing, try to really put my health into it, try to work my off to get it done, to get it achieved. On the other hand, at some points when things are getting dirty, when things are getting difficult, um, I might be not the most easiest one to deal with, because for me it's getting emotional. I like to be the one who's pushing others, who's motivating others, who's trying to get things done. Well, let's take a look at my mood in different cities. So let's zoom in, and what we see is that the highest mood I have is Chursk and Side. Well, when we have Gdynia, Iserlohn, I will get into the description in a few seconds. And we have the lowest value in Poznan, Wolfsburg, Göttingen, Hamburg, and Świnoujście with the lowest value. So why did it happen? Basically, Chursk, Side, Gdynia, Iserlohn, and Berlin, let's say, are the cities where Berlin is the city where I live. Those are the cities where my family lives, or I can visit family and friends, or where I met family and friends. So Chursk is where my father's family is. Side is where we spent in Turkey our family vacation. Gdynia is where my mother's family lives. Iserlohn is where my mother lives. So when I'm there, my mood tends to be higher. Poznan is where I studied psychology. Wolfsburg is where I work for clients. Göttingen is where my employer is. Hamburg is where I worked for some clients, and Świnoujście is where I spent like a weekend on the beach in Poland, in North Poland. But basically, we spent 60% of the time in trains because the trains were broken and we were not able to get to use the sun. So what we see is that basically my mood is connected to meeting my family and my friends, and it's a little bit decreasing when I meet or when I have to work. Then let's take a look at my mood per weekday. So what does it show us? Basically, it shows us that on Sundays, Saturdays, Fridays, and Mondays, I think my mood tend to be higher. So the weekends and around the weekends, Fridays and Mondays, my moods are higher. On Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, my mood is lower. So yeah, basically the time when I get into meeting my family and friends, my mood tends to be higher. When I have to visit clients, when I have to work, my mood gets lower. When I'm mid of the week is the lowest mood. So it's a clear tendency of when my mood is increasing, and maybe it's even a more value thing. So what do I value? I value my family. So again, descriptive analysis, Bartosz, your average mood is 7.01. City with lowest mood is Świnoujście. Vacation, Sida has the highest mood, family vacation. Then Mittwoch as Wednesday has the lowest mood, and Saturday as Samstag is with the highest average mood. Well, let's jump into the heart rate variability. It's the yellow part, and what we do see here, I will skip the heart rate because I'll focus on the heart rate variability. As discussed before, the heart rate variability is an indicator of stress. So what we see here is heart rate variability is around 60, 61. The min value and the max value is 9 and 177. Heart rate variability as an indicator of stress level is, and the thumb rule being the higher the heart rate variability, the lower the stress level. So 60 is kind of an average for people of my gender and my age. But of course, gender and age are not the only factors which impact judgment of a good or a bad heart rate variability. So you have always to contact your doctor and discuss heart rate variability with him or with her, because the things I'm saying here about heart rate variability are just my interpretation of what is going on, and not my interpretation on whether it is 100% right and whether it is physically and medically a right interpretation. So please do not interpret your heart rate variability without consulting a doctor. So what we see here, I have an average which is pretty much the average for a male 35-year-old. Well, let's get into the heart rate variability when it comes to the city, and it's the it's the yellow one. So what we see here is that we have C-Day, we have Gdynia, we have Berlin, and we have Gerlingen with a high heart rate variability. So basically, the places where my family live is where I have where I spend time with my family is where I have the lowest heart rate variability, as well as where the headquarter of the company I work for is, which is pretty easy to interpret because being there is kind of comparable to not being on vacation, but you meet many people from headquarter, which you do not see every day. So you have good talks, you have talks about what happened in the last time, etc., etc. On the other hand, which is pretty interesting, is that Iserlohn, where my mother lives, is that I have a very high mood level in Iserlohn, but at the same time I have a low heart rate variability level, which tends to show me that being in Iserlohn for me means being happy at one point, but still my mother and we argue a lot. We discuss things very emotionally. We like to discuss political topics as well as personal topics. So it might be that the stress level might be a little bit increased because in a positive way, because our discussions tend to get emotional. Well, then we have the heart rate variability per weekday, and what we see here is that Fridays and Fridays and Mondays do have the highest heart rate variability. My understanding of it is that Fridays are the closing of the week, Mondays are the beginning of the week. So my mood is still high because of the weekend starting and the weekend still being kind of active. But at the same time, it shows me that closing of the week and beginning the week with new tasks is kind of stressful, so you have to concentrate very much, while at the same time the time when I'm, for example, in Wolfsburg is not as stressful. Being at the client is not as stressful for me. So this is kind of my interpretation, and what we see here is again average heart rate variability is 60. I have the lowest heart rate variability in Świnoujście, the highest one in Iserlohn. Exactly. Well, and then let's take a look at my HRV, heart rate variability over time, and what we do see here is that it's stable too. So it does not tend to change. It has some high values, probably the moments where I am with family and friends, as well as it has some low values, probably some Mondays or Fridays when I at work or at clients. So let's then take a look at nutrition and sports behavior. Let's first take a look at the highest possible level. Resting calories are 2000 K, which is average. My active calories is 700 and my sports calories is 600 on average in the given time frame. So given time frame is from beginning of 2019 to end of July. My eating calories on average are 1,700, but this is a little bit biased because I did not collect all the data during all the time. The average count of grams for fat 105, protein 106, and carbs 78. When comparing it in calories, my share is that I have a 56% share in fat, a 25% share in protein, and a 19% share in carbs. I do on average 13,000 steps. I went swimming for 10 times, Thai boxing for 5 times, and muscle training, so going to the fitness club 30 times in a given time frame. My average weight was like around 89%. So the thing is, what we are going to do now is to zoom into months to understand development for months. As we see here, the green part is my weight, and my weight was dropping. So we need to get into the specifics. So what we can do first is to filter months. So let's first filter on April. This is written in German because the dashboard is in German. I can provide an English dashboard. So what you need to do now is let's zoom out in order to see the changes and click to update. Right now the macros are working, so what we have right now is the changed values. So let's zoom in again into my sport and my nutrition. Well, what we see here is that resting calories 2000, sports calories in April were just 250, so I was not doing sports as much as possible. Carbs was 30%, protein 26%, fat 44% in calories, and my average weight was 90 kilograms. So what we see here is I'm above average when it comes to my weight. I'm above average when it comes to my carbs share, and I'm below average when it comes to sports. So what we can do next is to take a look at May, which has to be written in German too. So May. What we see is that we have still around 2000 calories. We have eating calories, but what changed is the fat level is now 63%, protein level is 32%, carbs level is 5%, with a gram above 20 grams. So I changed my eating behavior in May, as well as I added sports, which we see here. So my sports calories are around 700, increased compared to sports calories in April. And this happened because I added Thai boxing and swimming. And what we can't see right now in May is my average weight did not decrease very much, but if we again go one step further, 1 month, so if we zoom into June, what we do see is that sports calories are still high, eating behavior is around 1850, so it decreased by like 200 calories. And the share increased. Fat is now 71%, protein is 26%, and carbs are 3%, with carbs being under 20 grams. Well, still with high sports activity, and my weight decreased to 85.41. And the same goes now for July. So let's take a look on July. This is because it's English, so what we have to do is to write it in German. Well, and what we see right now is that sports activity is still high. Eating behavior, this is lower, much lower, because I did not collect all the relevant data, so it should be, I think, around 1,800. What we do see is that carbs is at a level of under 10, so under 10 grams, and the share is 2%, with 18% protein and 80% carbs, 80% fat. So the keto diet, which I tried to get into my life, got me to a place where my weight decreased to 85 kilograms. This is like 2 months ago. Right now I'm at 80 kilograms. So basically what we do see is that increasing sports and decreasing calories, as well as decreasing the share of carbs and increasing the fat share, helped me to lose weight. As a next step, I want to understand, when do I tend to not optimize my eating behavior and my sports behavior. So this is why I will now get July out, and I will filter. Well, I have now filtered out the month filter, so we have a whole view. So what we see within this graph here is we have green for weight decreased while increasing, blue while not increasing but decreasing, because here I was not collecting it. So decreasing calories and increasing sports behavior. So my weight drops when I decrease calories, increase sports behavior, as well as weight decreases when I increasing fat and decreasing carbs. Because here we have carbs around 81 grams, and here we have carbs around 20 grams. So what we see is then that it decreases, and then let's see eating behavior per city. What we see is that I'm not eating enough in Hamburg, in Wolfsburg, in Gdynia and Schersk. I was not collecting it. And what I do see is that I'm not eating enough on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So for me, the information is that when on the road, when not being in Berlin or not being with my family, when I'm eating enough, is the time when I have to take care of my eating behavior. And when it comes to days spent per city, the most time I'm in Berlin, so this is general information which might be important to you. In order to understand the data, of course. So most time you see I spend in Berlin because I live in Berlin, and all the other days are not as high as Berlin, of course. And then we have a description here. So question is, what is the conclusion? Basically, I need more data in order to analyze myself, in order to analyze my development. I will add, for example, digital behavior data, as well as I need to collect data over time, which is, again, the most important thing here is discipline. Then I have to work cognitively. We've seen that my mood is low when I'm working, when I'm at my clients, for example. My stress level is high when I'm working, when I'm with clients. But my stress level is low and my mood is high when I'm with family and friends. So what I need to do basically in the future is to, cognitively re-understand my working time and try to meet people as friends at work. Then I need to decrease my stress level, and I need to increase my mood, and I need to change my nutrition. So when I'm on the road, for example, I need to eat more. Maybe it will also impact my stress level and my mood. So if I'm not eating enough, it may have impact on my mood. It may have impact on my stress level. So I need to be aware of when to eat and need to maybe introduce meal preparing into my daily routine. So when I know that I will be on the road for 2 days, maybe I need to introduce preparing meals. On the other hand, when I'm on the road, I'm not doing sports enough. So what I might try is learning how to do sports without weights, without a swimming pool, without boxing, but just next to my bed. So with my own weight. So own weight, like the modern sports approaches. Yes, and this is basically the thing I'm going to do. I'm going to try to introduce sports without equipment based on my own weight. I'm going to try to search for hotels which have sports possibilities, and I'm trying to plan my diet when on the road, as well as I will try to understand people at work as friends and try to meet them in the same way as I meet family and friends. So what you have seen here is a automized dashboard. You can filter it. You have different areas of improvement, and this means that you can always upload new data. This dashboard, I will provide access to it if you contact me via my website, coachandbusiness.com. And if you want to, of course, me as a coach, we can work on preparing your data. me as a coach, we can work on preparing the data, as well as we can work on understanding the data, interpreting the data, as well as trying to build actionables based on the data and getting it into habits in your life. So we have some approaches within which we can collaborate. As a first step, this dashboard is a service I provide. You can contact me and we can figure out how you will be able to use such a dashboard for your personal development. On this way, thank you for listening. I hope you liked my dashboard. I hope you liked my idea on combining big data, the digital world, and the coaching approach. And thank you. See you next time. I wish you a laugh, a smile on your face every day. Thank you very much. Bye bye.